myself. Last Saturday, I was at Sports Page Bar, and this guy, I was just sitting at the corner of the bar all by myself, okay? And this guy came up and sat next to me, and he started talking about how he was an electronic engineer, electrician. And he had his own company, and he was certified, licensed, all this stuff. He kept talking about it. I wasn't even asking him many questions. He was just talking my ear off about low voltage shockwaves. Okay. So I started just to ask him a few questions about what it's about and how it works. I asked him about nanobots and if they're possible. And when I asked him this question, he literally shit his pants. He looked at me like I was like a ghost. And as soon as I asked him this question about the nanotechnology, how they could communicate with each other using the same technology he's talking about, some woman came up and kind of like distracted him and pulled him away. Now, I saw this same guy at the hotel I'm staying at right now. Okay. Then I saw Jeff Frederickson, former teammate when I was at Rosemount Squirt and Pee Wee. Then Eastview opened up and he moved to Eastview. Then he was my opponent. And he took me to Cowboy Jack's. And right when we got to Cowboy Jack's, I sat down. I ordered a water. No ice. Bartender had it ready for me. And this guy named Patrick, I think his name was, he kept telling me he was from Michigan. Sounded like he was from New Jersey. But he started talking about low voltage shockwaves too. Okay. Actually, sorry, this was all on Friday night. Okay. And I thought it was weird that two people, one old guy and one young guy, were starting to talk to me out of nowhere about they were both low voltage engineers. The old guy said he was a low voltage electronic engineer, and the younger guy said he was in low voltage telecoms. Okay, same thing. Okay, but that's what they're talking about is low voltage shockwaves. Okay, do you see these street lights right here? Okay. And then on Sunday, my brother-in-law, Jeremy, he took me to Menards. Save big money at Menards. And I found this book just out of nowhere called Wiring. I was like, oh, this is interesting. These guys were talking about low voltage shockwaves. And in this book, it has an entire two chapters called low voltage. Okay. And one of the low voltage sections is about streetlights. So you see those streetlights right there? Do you see how they're sending out beams of light? Okay. They're sending out what their power source is generated from, which is a low voltage. Okay. Which can be sent into your body. Because again, your body is electric. It's electromagnetic. Just like the technology these people were talking about. So these low voltage shockwaves, if you send enough of these electromagnetic radiation signals at a person, it can really affect their body. It can cause serious harm to their body. So Saturday, I had to drive down to Owatonna, and on my drive down to Owatonna and Faribault, I had just this weird feeling in my entire body about, like, from head to toe, okay, and specifically in my heart, where I had, you feel like nauseated or lightheaded, but this is like an artificial feeling, like a ring. There's like a ringing to it. My nose was like ringing. So when you're getting these signals sent at you, that's kind of like what it feels like. And that's where the term Havana or have analog syndrome comes from, is these low voltage shockwaves. And the most common device that these are sent from, there's two of them. You see these antennas, these large like antennas on top of people's houses. Some of them look like wafer type shapes. Some of them look like straight poles going up. Okay, those are low voltage RF devices. And then cell phones. If you look on your cell phone, you'll look at the exposure to RF. That's low voltage radio frequency or shock waves, which can be sent to your body. And then what's another thing that has low voltage technology in it, or low voltage capabilities? Well, your car's headlights. Okay, anything with light can be sent into your body. Okay, so these cars driving around with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and these special headlights, they also have that inside of them. So that's what I want people to be aware about, especially in the intelligence community, especially in the FBI. People who go after child trafficking, child molesters, specifically in large, powerful groups like churches, mega churches, or mid-mega churches. They have this, and that's why these churches will put this 5G technology on top of their churches. As anybody who tries to investigate them or mess with them or look into their church, their finances, if they're doing things correctly, they'll receive a heavy dose of these low voltage shock waves. And not many people, if you're not in the Masons and Stones, not many people can grasp this, again, because your life is kind of fugazi, you know what I mean? So it's hard for people to understand this when they're not part of this little game that these people play. But that's one thing that I've tested, experimented, and felt throughout my own body, is this low voltage shockwave system that can be sent at it. And it's not anything fun. It makes your body feel like shit. Now, these are the shockwaves and these are the signals in America that cause a lot of cancer. Okay? They cause a lot of so if you get a medical dictionary, specifically a Taber's medical dictionary, there's the waves of RF spectrum, the spectrum of RF radio frequency or light waves. They can give you a specific sickness, like strep throat, a cold, sniffy nose, a cough, a high temperature. It's just it's a signal sent to your body that causes the body's composition to change. Okay. So, and again, I'm not trying to scare people because the Masons and Stones are giant pussies, but that's another thing that their nanotechnology communication devices run off is low voltage electricity. That's all it is electricity being sent to your body through radio frequency. And that's how a lot of these people from churches and mosques, specifically in the Minnesota area, that's how they communicate, undetected. And that's how their nanobots that use nanomotors operate. It's like ultrasonic, low voltage waves. And that's what keeps their nanomotors going. And being able to communicate with each other without saying a word. Okay, so if you guys remember who Stephen Hawking was, this talk is going everywhere, but it'll make sense to you if you have a brain. Stephen Hawking, he was put in a wheelchair by the church because, again, if you looked at his theory, the black hole theory, you never end, nothing ever ends. There's no God or devil. That's all for crazy people. The church and the mosque put Stephen Hawking in a wheelchair using this technology. Okay? And they kept his entire brain was intact. Okay? All of his muscles stopped working. He wasn't able to move them really, but his entire brain was still intact, okay? Like fully capable, fully functional. And that's why he was able to write all these manuscripts and books, and his theory about the black hole while he was in a wheelchair. And this started when he was around 19 years old. I think he was at Oxford, in Great Britain. And and again, Stephen Hawking, he never said that he didn't believe in God or the devil. Same thing. All he said was he never wanted that to muddy the waters with his theory or anything he was writing about. He never wanted God or the devil to interfere with his work. That's basically what he was saying. And again, his theory proved there's no such thing because nothing ever ends. The universe is an endless cycle of water. Okay, and that's why you come from your mother's water. That's why women are the true creators. No man, no mas. Okay, but anyways, Stephen Hawking helped pioneer and perfect this technology for the church and the mosque, the nano communication devices that they all use, that are put in their bodies by a vaccine or a shot. Okay, you get on this special list and you get the nanobot and the nanomotor. And that's what Stephen Hawking, anything he thought, okay, it went on this computer screen, like to a T, okay? So if he said, I like red apples, in his mind, it went directly on the computer screen. So how it works with this nanotechnology is they have a private network, okay, with private servers, and that's why you see all these data centers going up. And when you think it, okay, it pings to these servers, okay, and these large data centers, and then it'll ping to your close contacts that you're trying to communicate with, like instantaneously. And that's how the nanotechnology works. And that's why nanotechnology and nanobots are never ever talked about in the mainstream news, mainstream science, is because it's something they want to keep very secret. Okay? It's like their only thing that they have kept away from the grasp of the, law enforcement, the federal law enforcement, local law enforcement. Although some local law enforcement have this technology in their brain and they're part of it, some of them don't. So this goes undetected. It goes on these private servers, private data centers, okay? And nobody ever knows about it, okay? And that's how it works. And part of the technology uses the power lines right above you, okay? And that's part of the low voltage. So that's what the Masons and Stones use to communicate. That's how they plan events like 9/11. That's how they plan the Minnesota bridge collapse. That's how they plan the Baltimore bridge collapse. That's how they plan all their child trafficking and prostitution rings, and many more nefarious things that the Masons and Stones are into, like adrenochrome, shipping stuff through FedEx and UPS and the United States Postal Service. They don't have to say it. They don't have to send it on their phone. They don't have to email it. They don't have to write it down in a letter and send it to their comrade. All they have to do is just think it and send it to their close contact. Okay, and their close contact can think that. Okay, send it to their close contact. Okay, if you ever worked for a large corporation, there's this thing called synergy. Okay, think of it like blockchain technology, and that's kind of like what blockchain technology is. Each user remains anonymous to the next user with their communication, and that's kind of like how it works. But recently there was 2 crashes in their communication technology. One with the low voltage technology and the other with their communication technology, where they were found for the first time in history. And again, this is the Catholic Church, which is the Pope and all the cardinals and all the Catholic clergy, and then everybody below them, which is all the other churches and mosques, okay, that are part of this. And they've all been exposed finally, okay? So it's something people are never really aware about, or it's never talked about in the mainstream news. So it's something that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to be honest about, something the Masons and Stones don't ever do, honesty. So one fun thing I found out is I'm in their heads. I'm literally inside their heads. Because someone let me inside their network. And I can't hear anything they're saying. They can only hear what I'm thinking. Okay? I can never hear anything they're thinking. They can only hear what I'm thinking at this current moment in time. So it's pretty fun messing with these fools wherever I go. I can send them like a pew pew if I want, or a pew. All I have to do is think of that sound or schematic in my head, and it is sent to their entire network. So I love you, Masons and Stones. I'm sorry I'm in your heads. I'm sorry I own you. I'll try not to stone you like you do everybody else. Now, keep in mind, the Masons and Stones are a group that has framed countless people in society. They framed federal judges, state and local judges, for heinous crimes that they've never done. Same thing with regular everyday citizens, or people who are in law enforcement who are investigating them. And that's why they're the cult that's never found out about, is because they're the framers. And when you hear about the framers of the Constitution, framers of the Declaration of Independence, that's the Masons and Stones. Now, they're two fictitious documents, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. They're all satire, okay? Because the Masons and Stones control the floor, the checkerboard, the black and white. They control both sides of the Democratic and Republican Party, and that's hence why we live in a democratic republic. And not many people can grasp this because they use less than 10% of their brains on a daily basis, by design. And I'm not trying to chirp you or make you feel stupid. But that's how the Masons and Stones operate, or used to operate, is on this private undercover network with nanotechnology. Now, nanotechnology came out back in the 1960s, okay? And then it became widespread in the 1980s. Now, when you grew up, if you were a 1980s born person, you'll remember the cigarette thing in Congress, where the Congress went after cigarettes really hard. That's because one of the few things that can block out these low voltage 5G signals that are sent to your body are cigarettes, and a few other drugs that they went after in the one of the most popular drugs in the 1980s was cocaine in the United States. And that was another drug that blocked out this technology. They're natural inhibitors or blockers, both cocaine and cigarettes. And now I'm not saying go pick up either of these vices, but it's just, if you start feeling this, if you're investigating, child trafficking and pedophilia at churches, you might want to have a pack of smokes ready. Love you. Have a great day.